Chapter 3. Drugged, willingly and not so much. 2011, late August, county jail. I was more worried about what the psychotropic medication would do to my mind than I was the eventual outcome of my temporarily suspended court case. My lawyer Lily told me to take whatever they prescribed me once I got to the state hospital in Napa. The judge's order made my decision simple. Either I took them by choice, or the hospital had the authority to strap me to a bed and hit me with syringes full of whatever medication they deemed appropriate. With everything I'd recently been through, the path of least resistance seemed like an acceptable concession. I was aware that this was all happening due to my own actions, and it didn't matter if I liked it or not. But I still prayed every night that God would spare me and just do the WikiLeaks stuff instead. I had the court's order to begin my treatment, but Napa State Hospital was overwhelmed with like-minded schizophrenics, so I had to wait a few months. In that time, I worked to understand my illness. I started a daily journal. As it took shape, I found new ways to capture the negative emotions I was feeling. I would draw 3 empty boxes in the top left corner and fill them in with tears when things got too heavy for me. I thought of them as my atomic bombs from an old-school video game, and I only used them if I really needed to blow away a painful feeling. On many occasions, I'd have to fight through tears to find the atomic bomb box to try to save myself some intense emotional discomfort. It might surprise you, but it helped. On a bored dayroom afternoon, I made a thorough search of the book cart. On the back top row was a book called A Beautiful Mind. I recalled the film with Russell Crowe. It had been a while since I'd seen it, but I figured it was better than a Danielle Steele romance novel or another Louis L'Amour reread. As I stretched my arm out to grab it, the touch of my finger against its spine flashed scenes from the movie in my mind. It was the montage where John Nash realizes his memories of working for the CIA weren't necessarily true. I quickly pulled my hand away. "Wait," I said in my mind. "If it's not true for him, is it not true for me too?" I carefully backed away from the book cart. A month later, A Beautiful Mind was back on the rotating book cart, and I took it back to my cell. With a newfound bravery, I read it pretty quickly. Through the descriptions of John Nash's struggle with his mental illness, I was able to see mine clearer and gain some needed insight. As I waited to leave, I spent my days in the duality of working for WikiLeaks and reminding myself that being mentally ill was a possibility, like the guy from the Beautiful Mind book. It's also important to mention that my dad and sisters attended our local NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness, meetings to share in the strength of other families, where they learned about mental illness so they could be a better support network for me in my adversity. When the day for my departure finally came at the end of August, most of the time I was pretty sure I was mentally ill and the meds the hospital would soon prescribe might help me put my life back together. I woke up in the transport van on a sharp twist in the road and was immediately reminded that I really needed to pee. All I could see out the back window I faced was more traffic, and I knew asking the guards where we were would change nothing, so I ignored my discomfort. Soon, the guards started to talk about where they wanted to go for lunch, as out the back window the scenery had changed from commuter cars to old white institutional buildings surrounded by bright green trees and freshly mowed grass. We quickly arrived at a gate and drove inside to reveal a small courtyard, a brick building, and a small waterfall. As the guards unlocked my door, 2 women approached with a question. "Are you willing to be a peaceful participant in our administrative process?" one asked. After changing from my orange jail clothes to a khaki-colored outfit in a small bathroom, I signed all kinds of information release forms and had a quick interview with a doctor. I was then given a sack lunch and told to wait in a day room. I peeked into the brown bag. I wasn't even hungry, just curious. I set it aside and looked out the windows to get a better view of the place. From behind me, I heard a new person had entered the room. It was another guy dressed the same as me. I'd get to know Jake pretty well. He said wow a lot, but never casually. When he said wow, he said it slowly, like he was deeply contemplating the information. He was Korean. He wore thick frame black glasses, and like most everyone else, enjoyed eating the ramen soups off the weekly canteen list. "I guess this is where I'm supposed to eat my lunch," Jake said as he sat down. "Yeah, they sent me to eat here too," I said before sitting back down next to my lunch. "I'm Jake. Have you ever been here before?" he asked. "No," I replied, then introduced myself. "This place is nice. I wasn't expecting it to be nice. I've been to prison, but it wasn't nice like this," Jake told me as he quickly devoured his cottage cheese. "Yeah, I wonder where they're going to put us," I said as I looked back out the window. Is this your lunch? Aren't you hungry? He asked. No, you want it? I offered. Yeah, Jake replied as he grabbed the brown bag off my seat. Not long after that, a hospital guard opened a nearby door. You must be the new guys, he said as he started organizing his handcuffs. Since he's still eating, I'll start with you, he said as he held up his restraints. Don't worry, it's a short trip. Once we were in the van, the guard drove us 3 short blocks. Then I heard the groan from Jake as we rounded the last corner. This was more like what I was expecting, Jake said as he saw the razor-lined fence when we pulled up to the Sally Port. Whatever waited inside was undoubtedly less friendly than the cleanly manicured facade of the administration center. Jake and I remained quiet, ready to see more of the consequences of our actions. I've got 2 here for X4, said our driver to the guard at the gate. I couldn't make out a word of their small talk. I just anxiously waited to face the fear that had been treading water in my mind ever since the judge made his disappointing ruling. Once we passed through the event horizon of the razor-lined gate, I felt trapped, and my only logical escape was to accept defeat and give in. It's been really hard for me living in that jail cell and every day wondering if I'm really working for WikiLeaks. So if you're trying to kill me, then just do it. But if it turns out I am crazy, I'm ready to try your pills, I passionately told the treatment team assigned to my case. The team all had thoughtful, concerned faces on for me, but nothing I told them was anything out of the norm, and I would imagine if I could have seen into their inner minds during my plea of an unjust diagnosis, I would have only discovered the more basic desires of our human nature on display. Time, food, coffee, or a trip to the restroom. The whole meeting was a big show of force for the psychiatrist to reveal his decision. Let's try Risperdal, 2 milligrams, twice a day. And with that, the meeting was over. 2010, early July, the boat party. Well, that's the way it seemed to have happened. One day we're going to play our first show for everyone in town for the boat party. The next, Tommy won't even return my call and leaves a message saying he's got too much stuff to do to get ready. What am I supposed to think? I said to Starla in a quiet but aggressive tone as we sat by the bonfire. I don't know, why don't you just come out and say it, she answered. That you're jealous and trying to go behind my back and pull the strings of Metallia. I don't even know what your trip is. Ever since I asked Sandy to be involved, it's like all I get is the cold shoulder from you about the whole thing. But it's happening. We're making a record. Sandy's singing and playing a drum. Tommy's playing bass on a keyboard. Eli's doing whatever. It's a whole thing I got in my head, and I don't have the time for everyone to give me the green light on everything. I've got to make it happen now, I told her. Can you even hear yourself? You're not the one calling all the shots in your life. You're getting by exclusively off the generosity of others, and you act like you're doing them a favor for it. I'm not pulling any strings. I'm just sitting here wishing you'd be a little nicer on your imagined rise to stardom. All I hear from you is the hype of it all. But if you're really as good as you say you are, I think it's time for you to impress me, Starla hit back. Hey, this doesn't sound like boat party talk. What's the problem with you two? Cole asked as he came to Starla's rescue. He's drunk and getting out of line, Starla told him. Cobra, get up. Sit over here. Talk to Drew. Drew, could you try to get him to mellow out a bit? Starla, I'm going to find Tommy. Come on, you guys. This is the boat party. Cole directed a ceasefire. The Monday night after the boat party was over, Tommy stopped by my house with a 12-pack of beer, and we tried to work it all out as we drank on my deck. But I was just as unreasonable with him as I was with Starla. He wanted to get off the roller coaster I'd allowed Metallia to become. I was kind of shocked, but Roxy convinced me to be fine with it. The summer progressed. Now that I didn't have band practice to get to, I would just smoke pot, listen to our unfinished demo, and tinker in the garage on my music video set. I was also learning to mess around with Photoshop on my borrowed computer. I was experimenting with pictures of my paintings and got in the habit of adding a tag of Cobra Industries onto them. I found it to be a fitting new name for the different direction my art was going as a stoner. By the end of August, I had run out of willing piggy banks to borrow from, and Roxy was about to be free from her house-sitting obligation. Out at the ranch where I was growing my weed was a vacant trailer. I asked nicely for permission from the ranch owner to stay with Roxy till the harvest was over. I hadn't talked with Starla since our fight at the boat party, but somehow I knew she'd be interested in taking over my bedroom. She agreed with little discussion, and I had a week to get my possessions in order. My most pressing issue was the garage. It was completely occupied as the set for the music video I'd been working on, and it would definitely have to go. A music video director had put this idea into motion, and now I needed his help to capture what it had become. Unfortunately, his interest had waned by more pressing projects, and just getting something shot was really stressing me out. As I waited, I was able to get a photographer to come by and get some more pictures. That was fun, more images to mess with. The night before Starla moved in, the director came by with his nice work camera. I explained my vision, but he thought it was a bit underwhelming and instead wanted me to be on screen interacting with the things I'd created. This was also fun. Too bad I didn't have any finished music to put to it. Once I had packed up all my things and got the place ready for Starla, all I had to do was meet Roxy in Berkeley to see Faith and Liam play the last show on their tour. I don't know why, but I was surprised to see Roxy talking to a handsome man when I returned from the concert hall's bathroom. Liam had all the charms that a successful musician should have. Long shoulder-length blonde hair with a touch of gray, fitted jeans neatly pressed, and a glass-button Western shirt. We shook hands as all musicians want to, lightly as not to upset the delicate balances of our hands. He greeted me with his foreign accent. After the music ended, Roxy and I waited for a moment with Faith. She had put on quite a show. She had long black hair, thick lips, and eyes that seemed fitting for a character out of an anime. I was a little disappointed to see her in today's fashions. She wore the 90s well. "Oh my gosh, you're so tall," Faith said to me as I towered over her backstage. "It must be the heels on my boots," I told her. "So you're the guy Roxy's running off with. You better be good to her. We're quite taken with her, you know," Faith kindly warned. "I'm quite taken with her as well. I'll definitely do my best," I said with all honesty. "Will you two stop? I'm a grown woman and the real adult in this relationship." "Faith, you should be encouraging me to take good care of him," Roxy said as we all laughed at my expense. "So you'll be going back to the house tonight?" Faith asked Roxy. "Yeah, we'll be leaving early tomorrow morning so we can get settled at the horse ranch," Roxy told her. "Well, if you change your mind, I've got a bunch of rooms right down the street, and if I don't see you before you leave, I'll be emailing you about the party when we pick a date and suitable location," Faith said before sending off Roxy with a hug. We were living in a unique microclimate, hot and dry. The owner's main concern for us staying in the small trailer was the propane water heater was almost out of fuel and nobody had the cash to refill it. This mattered very little. A couple quick, cold showers were the only things keeping us from totally melting out there. Food was a bigger problem, and Starla was right. I was living off the generosity of others. Now that I was bringing my also broke, beloved girlfriend into the mix, we were both feeling the stress. Good thing I had scraps from last year's weed trimmings to keep me distracted. Roxy called it my medicine. She didn't believe in pharmaceuticals. "Now see, your dad was nice enough to give us this $100 and let us borrow his car. I want to make sure we get the things we need and when we can to get organic food," Roxy told me in the parking lot of the grocery store. "Yeah, I'll try to keep out of your way," I said. But things didn't go well for us once we were inside. "I'm a complete failure. All I want to do is eat organic food. Is that too much to ask?" Roxy pleaded after falling apart once we were back in the car with our meager little bags. "I thought we did pretty good. We can live off this," I told her optimistically. "No, I wanted the organic chickpeas. We didn't get any of the organic apples. The regular ones were too gross. I can't be expected to eat that crap. I have to draw a line somewhere," she yelled as she showed signs that the emotional outburst would soon be over. "I don't know what to tell you. Being broke sucks," I said. "It's just I've worked so hard in my life. I've got a college degree. I've toured the world. You would think someone like that could afford to eat healthy food," she said as she fell apart again. "Look at me. We're going to get there. You deserve to eat organic. It's just this world that's got things messed up. Plus, the plants are starting to get bigger, and I think we're going to get something special out of them. Just stay with me. Keep the faith," I told Roxy in my best effort to put out the fire. My 30th birthday came and went with only a small celebration to honor it. I was trying to keep my pot growing off the radar, but I don't think I fooled anyone who bothered to pay attention. Some of the plants were getting big and needed support, but I wasn't able to see past my optimism that the numbers wouldn't be as big as I hoped. But Roxy made every day amazing, and she would always find a blessing in our scarcity. We still laughed a lot and were in no way sick of each other's touch. She was proving to be as wonderful as a partner as I thought she'd be at the beginning of our courtship. As for my side of the relationship, I was trying. The first week of October seemed like a good time to harvest the crop. I was able to get a handful of my friends to come help out. As the plants were drying, Roxy got an email from Faith. She was throwing a big thank you weekend for the people involved in the tour. She rented a couple of swanky large cabins in Nevada City. I wasn't excited about going. Roxy reiterated many times that I needed to be on my best behavior and not get too drunk. It felt like I might as well be going in an itchy sweater that didn't fit right. I was able to borrow my dad's car, and we showed up as late as we could get away with. "You guys want to smoke some weed?" I asked as I opened my weed tin to a bunch of out-of-town musicians. I kindly handed it to Liam, and he put it to his nose. "I think that sounds like a pretty good idea. What do you guys say?" Liam asked the rest of the band. Faith had asked Roxy to help get dinner on the table and was unaware that I was getting everyone heavily stoned. "Why is everyone being so quiet?" Faith asked the dinner table as everyone intensely feasted on her delicious meal. "Hey man, what's your name again? Do you think I could buy a pound of that?" A DJ friend asked who had come along on the trip. I did a mediocre job of not embarrassing myself that weekend. I was also paid $2,000 for a pound of the weed I was selling the DJ. The only catch was I'd have to drive it to him in San Francisco once it was dry. But now we had some cash for our last few days together, which eased a lot of lingering tensions. Roxy would soon be headed to Mendocino to trim marijuana for a big grower. She did pretty well at this the year before and had high hopes that she would do so again. I'd be staying at my dad's to finish trimming my own product and to make sure I had a buyer lined up. Now that the waiting game was over and people were seeing how green a dollar bill was, there was an added urgency and extra layer of stress to everything we did. It also didn't help that I had pounds of fresh weed around to cloud my thinking. As much as I loved our little summer ranch trailer and the life we developed out there, the leaves were changing and I was excited to drop off Roxy so I could get a break. "2011, late August, Napa. There was a knock on my door, followed immediately by a sickly-looking man with a message. 'Are you Stoltzner?' he asked. 'Yeah,' I replied. 'Medication,' he said as he quickly disappeared. I already knew where to get my med, I just didn't want to. There were 2 guys ahead of me in line, and I thought I'd need that much time to get my head together. As I waited, I contemplated the obvious theme of the unit. Lots of white, lots of light. White walls, white ceiling panels, white vinyl floor. With all the white around, the khaki colors the patients wore must have really stood out to the nurses in the central station. The way the overhead fluorescent lights reflected off the floor hurt my eyes. It was quickly exhausting to be out of my room. I enjoyed the creative freedom of my thoughts till I was suddenly in front of the med nurse with a confused look in my eyes. I tried to swallow my parched mouth. I'd only been on the unit a few hours, and I didn't even know where to get a cup of water yet. It was all happening so fast. "Who do we have here?" the med nurse asked. "Stoltzner, I'm new today," I told her. "Yep, I've got it right here. Have you ever taken this med before?" "No," I replied. "It's nothing to worry about. I'll even give you a cup of juice. Do you want green or orange?" she said as she pointed to rows of filled cups. "I guess orange," I said. I looked into the small med cup she handed me. It was such a small pill for all the headache it had been causing. "Thank you," I told her, as I'd previously decided this would be my new ritual for this unwelcome habit. I swallowed the pill quickly, then followed it with the cup of orange-flavored juice and started to walk away. "Not so fast," the nurse told me. "Let me see your tongue." I wasn't sure what she was getting at, so I stuck it out. "I want to see under it, too," she demanded. I opened my mouth wide and wiggled my tongue around to prove I had swallowed it. "That's good, just checking," she said as she returned to her med chart to see who was next. Now that my evening had been freed from the only thing that the judge cared about, I went back to my bedroom, lied down on my bunk, and waited to not be crazy. But this would take a little more time. "What am I holding?" asked the bland, professionally dressed unit psychologist to the court competency group. "A piece of paper," someone answered. "Yes, you're right. It is a piece of paper, but what's on it?" she asked again to a long pause. "The California state seal," I answered. "Yes, you're right. It is the state seal. I want us to look at what's on it." "What do you guys see?" she asked the group. "Some kind of lady with a weird hat," another guy answered. "Yes, she does have a weird hat on. Does anyone know who she is?" "Yeah, I think that's Athena, the wisdom one," I said. "You're right again. That's her Greek name. But does anyone know her Roman name?" she asked a tougher question. "Look, lady, I'm not here for a history class. Get to your point and tell us why your hat's so funny," one of the guys blurted out. "My point is, look hard at this seal. Try and tell me if you see any hidden occult symbolism. Lots of guys get worked up how there's black magic emblems in the courtroom and how witches are trying to steal their soul and keep them in jail so they can't fight back. Does anyone feel like that?" she probed. "I didn't before, but you're making a pretty good case for it now," someone joked. "Come on, you guys, work with me here," she pleaded. "I don't know if there's any witches involved, but my public pretender does a pretty good job of keeping me in jail. If I could have paid for my own lawyer, I would have never ended up in this place," another guy said as the whole room agreed. "Thank you for that. Moving on," the frustrated unit psychologist said as she gave up on her point. On my first weekend, I got a visit from my family. At Napa State Hospital, there were no booths or inmate numbers to worry about, just a large hall filled with tables, people's home-cooked meals, and excited friends and families. But I still wasn't sure they weren't secretly recording us somehow. So I kept my side of the conversation light and avoided talking about Roxy or WikiLeaks. We were watching other families around the room show affection, so by the end of the visit, I got a bunch of needed hugs. It had been over 6 months since I had one. They felt foreign by now, but I knew that they were needed if I was ever going to feel normal again. It was a quick and smooth transition back to sanity, just a couple of weeks for the medication to balance things out. Most of the work I did in jail stuck as soon as I was chemically grounded back in the common baseline reality most people reside in. This experience was uncommon. Most people have to try a few different medications before finding relief. I was glad that this part of my journey went easy. I still had a long way yet to go. But now I had to deal with a side effect that wasn't listed on the bottle. Without WikiLeaks as a scapegoat, reality was very depressing. On my first day at the hospital, the treatment team recommended that I keep the nature of my offense to myself. I did. It was hard walking around under the dark cloud I was facing and not being able to share the reasons why with my newfound friends. But another patient that had been a school teacher took notice. He went by Sal. He had short, buzzed black hair and often talked about his young son. So far, his son's mother was still standing by him. Sal talked about quitting teaching and getting into construction to better support them, once he got better, once they figured out what set him off. "Do you think it'll be something good today?" Sal asked me as the group was being moved into the dining room for breakfast. "I think it's just eggs and oatmeal. I looked at the menu last night," I told him. "Yeah, that's what I saw too," Sal said as we kept walking. "I was wondering if you were doing all right. As a teacher, I was taught to look for signs of depression, and you might be fooling the treatment team, but it looks obvious to me," he said as we approached the bottleneck to get in the dining hall. "Yeah, it's been kind of heavy for me recently," I told him. "We'll snap out of it. You've got to work to pull yourself up from these dark places. Take it from me, or you can do nothing and take more of their pills. The choice is yours," Sal said as he walked into the dining room, ending our conversation. It took me a few days to figure out how to combat it, but I knew Sal was right. I thought about how my offense was too big of a problem for me to focus on, and I'd have plenty of time to worry about it once I was back in jail. For now, I needed to treat this place for what it really was, a vacation from everything awaiting me back home. During our courtyard breaks, a bunch of guys would play horse at the basketball hoop. It could get pretty rowdy with jokes from all the weird stuff said in groups. Ken acted as the host of our comedy hour. My first impression of him was a Will Ferrell character come to life. Tall with curly black hair, he was very upbeat and positive. He treated everyone on the unit like an equal, no matter how weird. He was the first person to start laughing and the last one to stop. At the basketball court one day, I had a request to run by him. "You know, I used to do stand-up comedy," I told him.
"There's no way. You're not funny,"
he said with complete disregard. "No, I did before rock shows in my town. Some nights I dress up like a mime and tell stupid jokes and do really bad impressions," I replied as I stood my ground. "All right then, let's hear what you got," Ken said. "I'll tell you one, but even if it's not funny, I need you to ask me for more and to try to get me out of my shell. This place is getting to me. I want to try and have a good time like the rest of you guys." I informed Ken of my simple plan. "Listen up, everyone," Ken said loudly to the court. "It appears we've got a comedian in our midst. Let's hear it for C." Everyone blankly looked my way. I proceeded with the first of my old jokes that came to mind. "If I'm ever on a sailboat and the captain tells me to go starboard, I'm going to pretend like I misheard him and say, 'Go Star Wars. Look, man, we're in trouble. We can talk about Chewbacca later,'" I told the group with little reaction. Now that I was back living in reality and fighting for optimism, I started to pay attention to the mental health system I was immersed in. Jake had a bunch of useful information. They had roomed us together and we get to talking about the legal side of things. "See, your case is easy. You're just here for competency. Once the doctors think the pills are working, they'll just send you back to court. Since you're only here on a vandalism charge, you'll probably get time served," Jake said to calm my nerves. He couldn't understand why I worried so much about my case. I didn't have the heart to tell him either. "My case is different. The courts found me not guilty by reason of insanity. I have to stay here until the doctors think it's safe for me to return to the community." I was talking to one of the old-timers. He had to put in 10 years before they gave him a chance. Then he blew it with a beer on the outpatient program. Jake continued. "Yeah, I heard a couple guys talking about outpatient. How does that work?" I asked. "After 6 months, you're eligible for outpatient treatment, but it never goes that fast. There's a bunch of levels. You can get a job or a girlfriend. You can basically do whatever as long as you don't mind them running your whole life," he loosely explained. "That doesn't sound so bad. I mean, if you have to do it," I told him. "But you can't drink or get high. They test you all the time. If you fail, they send you back. Also, if you have weird new symptoms, they can send you back too. It can be a revolving door. But you don't need to worry. I'm telling you, the judge is going to say time served, you'll be free, and I'll be here for years dealing with their games." Jake admitted his defeat. One evening, I was pacing the halls and someone told me I had a phone call. Cobra, how are they treating you there? Cole asked warmly. Pretty good, I guess. I might be leaving soon. I'm supposed to take a competency test, and if I pass, they'll ship me back to jail, I explained. Do you think you're ready to come back so quickly? You've only been there a few months. What do the doctors think? Cole inquired. They called me schizoaffective and said that's why I did what I did. I'm hoping to win my trial and come back or maybe even go free, I said confidently. Cobra, think about the fact that a man lost his life, there's a heartbroken family somewhere out there, and that people are confused and scared about what you've done. I know what you want, but if you were in charge, what do you think should happen? Cole challenged me. I don't know, it's hard. I'm the one who's sick. I paused as Cole allowed the silence. I have to think about it, I told him. Well, hang in there. We're all rooting for you, Cole said. Well, this might sound trite and trivial, but it's a big deal for me, I teased. What? Cole asked. I cut off my hair. At a heavy cost of time, money, and effort, my family still visited me often. One of our last visits before I left stands out. And then he starts jumping up and down as he's running out of the day room. He jumped so high that he hit his head on the top of the doorway. Now he's bleeding all over the place, and staff starts freaking out and pulls the alarm. Yeah, you never know what's going to go on around here. Last night was really crazy, I told Starla and Sandy for some reason. That's horrible. What a poor man, Starla said. Yeah, then they kicked us all out of the day room so they could clean up all the blood, and we ended up missing the rest of our show, I explained coldly. You know, if that's your biggest concern, I think you're missing the bigger picture here. Was the man okay at least? Darla asked. Yeah, fine enough. One of the guys that knows him told me this sort of thing happens with him all the time. Part of me is glad that I'm leaving. I can handle being in a cell by myself. Fewer wild cards to keep track of, I told them as I looked around the room. Speaking of being in a cell by yourself, I found King Cat hiding in the wall again. He must like confined spaces too, Sandy told me. It's not that I like the isolation. I don't like any of this. I'm just ready for a change, I admitted nervously. Yeah, we know, Sandy said. I've got that picture of him grabbing the whip toy on my locker. That's a good shot. I like that one, I said. Sandy whispered something over to Starla, and she popped up in her chair and reached into her bag. We saw this at the store and had to have you try it, since we probably won't get to do this for Christmas, Starla told me as she presented me with a small chocolate cake with a decorative plastic candy cane stuck in it. She also handed me a white plastic fork. I took off the plastic candy cane and set it down on a napkin and adjusted the cake to get the angle I wanted lined up to cut into. Ah! There's stuff inside, I yelled to my surprise. It's all right. It's a hot lava cake. You'll like it. It's not a problem, Starla explained as she grabbed my hand. I think I'm not doing as well as I'm letting on, I said. You're doing as well as you need to do. You're getting through it, Sandy told me. It's just all this court stuff. I don't know how to, I started. I think it's too much to think about. Maybe worry more about the little things, like what to do if there's hot lava in your cake. Chocolate hot lava problems. Can you do that for me? Starla asked. Yeah, we'll deal with the big stuff only when we have to, answered Sandy. Okay, I'll try, I said as I took a bite. As I ate, Starla and Sandy talked about their 3-hour drive home. The lava cake was good, way better than anything I'd get in the dining room or off the weekly canteen, so I savored every bite. Knowing now that the visit was drawing to an end and that I might not see them aside from behind glass, I had to ask them with the 3 months of medication built up in my system. So you're telling me nobody's talked to Roxy since she went back to work in Mendocino? 2010, October. Dad's couch. Having an unreliable phone was a double-edged sword. Out at the ranch, it had allowed Roxy and me some freedom from the constant distraction of the music scene. But now that I was back at my dad's with little to do, I didn't like that people had stopped trying to reach me on it. Also, Roxy didn't get service at the trim house where she was working. She'd have to go on a decent hike, then climb up a big hill to get a few bars, so I wasn't hearing much from her. My silent partners were more than ready to get paid, but none of them had any idea on what to do with the product. I had one. It was a front through a friend of a friend. They were bikers. Whatever I dropped off at his apartment, he could work with. I'd just have to be patient. He quoted me a high estimate of return. The market was flooded with other eager sellers, so I was lucky to have him to work with. We started off with £5. I'd start my day on the couch in the living room. My dad was an early riser, and after a few hours of his commotion, I'd just get up. The coffee would still be warm, and I'd get busy with a joint, then a cigarette. I still had a couple large bins of weed to trim, but I was losing my enthusiasm for it. It bothered me that while I was doing all the work, my partners felt free to complain about it all, so I just stopped. I figured I'd wait to see how the money on the first 5 pounds turned out. I'd spend the rest of my day at my dad's waiting on the elusive call to come pick up some cash. Then I'd give up around 5 with my first beer.
My intake of fresh weed remained constant.
See, I can't believe you'd ask me that, Sandy replied with her mouth still dropped open as we drank beers in the kitchen. I mean, aren't you two going to get married? Isn't that the plan? Loosely, come on, I can't be that backed in here. I don't get a little grace period before I'm totally committed, I said as I tried to convince her. I mean, one date. I can't even go on one date? No, you can't. That's called cheating, Sandy informed me as she opened up 2 more beers. It's not cheating if it's just dinner and talking, I protested as I took an aggressive swig. Well, then what's the point of going? Sandy dug deeper. I don't know, I paused and sheepishly told her. To see if I like her, to see if I'm making a mistake. Wow, see, that's somehow even worse than if you were going to cheat. You can't do that. Everybody second guesses themselves, but you've got to see your relationship through. Who is this woman anyways? Sandy asked. Her name's Charlotte. I met her at a show. I really liked her. I thought it could be something. I disclosed my desire, but she never got back to me. All the more reason to move on. If this is really what you want, try running it by Roxy first, Sandy aggressively suggested. See how that goes. I can't do that. I quickly dismissed her idea. Yeah, because she'd freak out on you, Sandy agreed. I'm sorry, but you've landed yourself a good woman and you're stuck with her. You men, you always want more, she added. I know. I love Roxy and things have been great, but there's just so much unnecessary baggage. I hate that so many of our issues revolve around some band that she quit that I wasn't into. I love her, but I got my own art and music to make. Things are too convoluted together. Charlotte, on the other hand, is into books. I couldn't care less about books. No conflict there. As well as things have been going with Roxy, I can't shake the feeling that Charlotte inspires, I explained. But she never got back to you, Sandy reminded me. Nope, I admitted. I guess it's all red lights. The weed stayed constant, meaning I smoked a lot of it all day, but my beer intake varied. One night, as Sandy and I drank, we joked around about an Easter egg sticker my dad put on the top left corner of the sliding glass door to tell if it was open or shut. I suggested that stickers are attached to memory due to a loose association I had with scratch and sniff stickers, since scent is attached to memory. I had recently been buying a bunch of stickers. It started as a stone impulse buy from a big box store. Now, by my encouragement, Sandy and I had a big laugh putting skull and crossbone stickers all over the house. We even put a couple on my dad as he slept. But it wasn't funny the next morning when we had to peel them off everything. It was also difficult to give a good reason why we had done it. When Roxy would call, she couldn't help but tell me how much money she was making from day to day. I was getting tired of bringing nothing but the empty promises of a drug dealer to the table, and we arranged for me to leave my troubles and work with her. I had minor difficulties on my 3-hour drive, mostly by locking myself out of my dad's SUV with it still running on the side of the road when I got out to pee. After a quick freakout, I was able to pry open the back hatch and climbed in, but it wouldn't properly latch anymore. Forget it, I said to myself. I'll fix it later. I was quickly becoming less impressive. While I tended to my meager hand-me-down poor man's 30-plant garden, the man Roxy worked for did it all and more. He managed 6 30-plant large gardens and also built a 3-story off-grid remote trim house that everyone was staying in. I couldn't wrap my head around an accomplishment of this size. That's why the man made the big bucks and I counted nickels to hopefully buy a beer at the end of the day. The man wasn't done showing off either. He brought me to a large barn that systematically dried his weed from floor to ceiling. Every inch was taken up by large hanging buds. Good thing the man was spoken for, because if Roxy wanted to search for something more, she would quickly see I was nothing more than empty promises. We were glad to see each other, but I noticed Roxy's eyes had changed from brown to green, so I tried to stay out of her way and let her work. I think due to the stress of getting paid on my fronted weed, I got sick after arriving at the trim house, and I figured it would take a few days to get into work mode. But it never really kicked into gear, and this concerned Roxy. Listen, C, I know you've got a lot going on in your head, but this is our time to put away some acorns for the rest of the year. I'm working hard, you know, but I'm not seeing the same from you, and that worries me. If that's the way you want to play it, go ahead, but I'll be sitting back all spring while you're digging ditches, Roxy gently reminded me. I'm sorry, I'll try harder. I've got this new song and I can't work it out. I tried to work it in the car with that funky acoustic guitar, but it was too cold with all the snow around. I brought it inside, but I couldn't hear what I was doing with all the noise of music and talking. Yeah, the noise you were hearing was called working, and that's what you need to do. We'll figure out your song when the work is over, she firmly suggested. I did better from then on, but I still kind of straddled the line between acceptable and disappointment. My intake of fresh weed still remained constant. My daily hope would be my walk to the top of that big hill to check my voicemail. Cobra, it's Cole. We're playing a big holiday show in San Jose in a few weeks. You'll like the lineup. I got 2 backstage passes for you. Bring Roxy. We'd love to see her. Cobra, when are you coming back to town? I think I'm about to have something for you, said the message from the guy handling my weed. This isn't good timing, C. I really need these last few weeks out here to create a bigger cushion. There's always a big rock show to go to, but we've got to keep making money, Roxy told me. I know, but that big producer will be there. I'll probably get to meet him too, I told her. I've met lots of big producers. It never did anything for us. We just made our own records. I thought that's why you were doing all of this, she harshly pointed out. I think my cash is about ready too, I added. About? What does about mean? She prodded. That's what the message said. It's about ready, I told her. My hair is a mess. I don't want to be seen like this, she said to end the discussion. I'm sure Sandy could make time to fix it up, I suggested. See, I'm not looking for a solution, Roxy concluded. I decided to go without her. The morning I left, a news talk channel was on the radio in the trim room. The big story was about WikiLeaks releasing a bunch of diplomatic cables. I didn't know much about WikiLeaks. All I'd heard before this was some guy was wanted on sex crimes after he leaked the Iraq report. I didn't think much of it. I was more concerned to see how I was leaving things with Roxy. Would it be a friendly kiss or a disengaged hug? It turned out to straddle the line between both. I came back to Grass Valley a few days before the big rock show and called about the money as soon as I got service. Soon, any day now, I was told. On the rest of my drive home, I listened to stories about WikiLeaks, and with nothing going on once I got back, I started to investigate on my dad's computer. Smoking weed remained constant. Sandy, get in here, look at this, I yelled from the office. What? She yelled back as she cooked in the kitchen. This part wasn't like this yesterday, I continued to yell. I have no idea what you're talking about, she continued to yell as well. I got up from my dad's desk and walked into the kitchen. The Wikipedia page on Julian Assange is different from yesterday, like wildly different, I explained. That's the website where people can change the information, right? She asked me. Yeah, but it shouldn't change this much from day to day. I think the government had something to do with it, I suggested. From there, my interest in the story grew. It's so crazy. He released a secret file last summer with a 365-digit password. If he's killed, imprisoned, or taken offline, it's released. I told my dad as we smoked cigarettes on his deck during his work break. What's inside, he asked. I don't know, but I'm really hoping it's aliens. I was obsessively interested in WikiLeaks as a topic, but had no desire to read through 250,000 diplomatic cables. I basically just wanted to read about the global intrigue of it all. But this went too far. One night I took a break from searching and walked out onto my dad's deck to have a cigarette. It was dark and I didn't want to lose my pack of smokes, so I held on to them. We had new neighbors, or new to me at least. They had a bunch of weird lights all over the back of their house. I acknowledged their strangeness as I enjoyed looking at them. Then I turned my head and I heard my voice. You know the password. I didn't say it, but I heard myself say it. I didn't know any password. Is this the WikiLeaks password we're talking about? I wouldn't mind knowing that one. Is this a time travel thing, like I'll know it in the future so I know it now? It must be something like that, I thought in the darkness. Even though I never thought too far ahead with it, researching this global public event was not without its dangers. Dad, I'm so sorry, I told him in a quiet panic. What? He blankly answered as he watched TV. It might not be as bad as it looks. I don't know, I told him. What is it? He said in a frustrated tone. I think I crashed your computer, I said shyly. What? He got up and ran to the office, hitting the power switch right away. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Yeah, I tried all of that, I said as he kept flipping the toggle switch. No. I was almost done with the report. See, you've screwed me again. What were you doing on it? He demanded. I was looking up this WikiLeaks credit card thing on social media, and then the screen went all weird and then black, I told him. I knew it was that damn WikiLeaks. Okay, mister, you're done with that stuff on my computer, he ordered. He continued to yell, rant, and rave for the next 15 minutes till Sandy came home. I met her in the driveway. Hey, how's it going? She asked as she got out of her car. Dad's not in a good mood. Something's wrong with his computer. I went on social media to look up this thing and I might have crashed it. You wouldn't mind checking your phone, would you? I want to see if any of your friends are posting about it, I asked. Sure, I'll check real quick, she said. Sandy tried to log onto her account, but it froze up and got glitchy. See, what did you do to my phone? She yelled. This isn't good. I think they're dropping the grid tonight to try to contain this, I said as I began to freak. Contain what? What have you gotten us into? She aggressively asked. I don't know. It was just a thing about credit cards. Look, I've got some cash. Let's go to town and see if your credit card still works and then buy some cans of food. We did. Long story short, the grid remained intact. The next day when my dad brought his computer in to get fixed, the repair guy told him it looked as though his computer was hit by a wave of viruses. He was able to fix it, but my dad was still pissed. I had a few more days of waiting for the show. Around this time, I had another perceptual difficulty. Those neighboring lights, they were giving me problems again. I was up late drinking, and they had changed from a friendly decoration to an alien UFO pod thing. I just stared out the kitchen window in complete shock. Then I saw a fleshly being walking around their backyard as I quietly freaked out. I locked the doors and hid on the couch until I fell asleep. When I woke up the next morning, I wasn't really all that concerned. I just figured I needed more to do with my free time. Sandy jumped at the chance to go with me to the big rock show in San Jose. She drove and we got there with little trouble. We picked up our passes and called Cole.
Meet me in the arena.
We saw him walk in from the other side and met him halfway. I played him your demo. He wants to meet you, Cole opened with. We walked backstage, then through double doors with the band's name printed on it. As Cole opened it, the famed producer was standing right on the other side, and we were introduced and gently shook hands. So, you're the Cobra. I've heard about you.
They played me a few of your songs. They were all right,
he said with an upbeat tone. Thanks. It's great to meet you too. I've been a fan of yours for a while, I told him. I've got to go do a radio thing, but catch me later. You'll be hanging around tonight, right? After watching a few bands, I got bored of just standing around and being intimidated by the successful musicians, so I went out to the car and grabbed a sack of my recent harvest. I can't remember who else I got stoned, but I was sure feeling the effects of it. That's when I heard the singer of the band Cole played for mention his publicist told him to pay attention to WikiLeaks, so I had to butt in on the conversation. They call it a dead man switch. It only gets triggered if everything goes horribly wrong. That's what opens up the file. I think we're about to find out we're not alone in the universe, I said as I told him everything I knew all at once. Hey man, cool, he said. The headliner just started. Let's go watch. "2003, Choose Your Adventure." It was around 11 when I walked onto the private airport near my parents' house in Alta Sierra. I heard faint chatter and saw the flicker of a lighter. Being in a good mood, I walked over. Ted was an old family friend a few years younger than me. We played music together a few times. He had long brown hair and an easy smile. Hey, who do we got here? I asked. Is that C? It's Ted from down the street, he answered. Oh, hey, Ted, it's been a while. What's been up? I asked. Oh, nothing, man. We're just sitting here smoking a little weed. You smoke too, right? He inquired. Nope, I never have, I replied. Is it because you don't want to or you've never been asked kindly enough? A mysterious woman's voice interrupted. As I walked back home a half an hour later, my senses were heightened, but it wasn't until I put on some headphones and whatever album I was currently digesting that I noticed the full effect. The weed definitely made the music clearer, more like I was actually in the room with the musicians. It was a mild first experience. Not long after, I smoked pot for the second time with Sandy and got intensely too high. We were watching the movie Tombstone, and my sense of time slowed. I thought the whole black and white intro scene was the whole movie, and I kept asking, I thought Val Kilmer was in this movie. With nothing else to do, I was hooked. For the next 6 weeks, I smoked in the evenings after my parents went to bed. It was a completely stereotypical stoner experience. TV, video games, sweet and salty snacks, and lofty dreams of what I should be doing with my life. Soon I became daring and started smoking earlier when my parents were still awake. One night, my mom and I had an impactful interaction. We had a great meeting tonight. I like these midweek church sessions where we don't have to focus on a sermon and can really find out what's going on with each other, my mom told me in the kitchen. Yeah, what did people say that was so interesting? I asked. Tonight, we talked about a bunch of spiritual prophecies for the area, how God's going to pour out his spirit in a great movement and how people need to prepare their hearts for it, she told me. She kept talking, but the rest of her words weren't necessary. I'd heard everything I needed to hear, and I interrupted her. Mom, for the last 6 weeks, I've been smoking pot every night, and I think I'd like to quit, I said as I broke into tears. I've been pulling it off better than I thought. She was completely surprised to hear this confession. She prayed for me, and then we threw the rest of my stash out in the yard. I was able to stop for a few weeks. Then during a sleepless night, I had a vivid vision of a series of events leading to the great spiritual movement my mom talked to me about. It ended with God touching me on the forehead with a message. This is what you need to do. My vision was mainly groups of people getting together, and I tried to orchestrate the right interactions, but the things I saw never happened. Out of frustration, I would still smoke weed occasionally, and one night while high, a friend and I had an idea. Yeah, I remember those Choose Your Own Adventure books, the kind where you flipped to certain pages to continue the story. Those were cool, he said. Yeah, it'd be cool to make an album like that, I answered. You mean where you switch between tracks on a CD to follow the story, he asked. Yeah, I said as we both reached the conclusion at the same time. My brain somehow tricked my heart into believing this CD was the new agenda for my vision, and I put everything I had into it, including finally quitting pot. Fittingly, the story I went with was a fiction about a man deciding to either quit or keep smoking marijuana. As the story branched out, I found more ways to incorporate my successes and failures into the directions, including an obscured vision from God. Now that I was a welcomed addition to the fringes of the music scene, I was able to get people to join in on my musical madness. I bought a digital 8-track recorder, and I'd bring it wherever needed to get the right musical additions for my friends. After a year of work, I had all 38 songs finished, and I put $2,000 on my credit card to get 1,000 pressed. But once I had it in my hands, it was hard to admit the truth that marijuana and I didn't work well together, and I was now facing an embarrassing explanation with this new CD. But fortuitously, no one paid that much attention, and it was quickly forgotten. 2010, mid-December. Home and away. The next morning after the San Jose show, I was tired for my upcoming meeting with the bikers. But the promise of money finally in hand overshadowed me not getting to sleep in. Soon, I was in an unfamiliar garage, in an unfamiliar town, talking about making money off of drugs which I was unfamiliar with. My meeting was briefly interrupted by a more pressing meth deal, but I figured with all the handguns lying around, I wouldn't ask to speak to the manager. When it was my turn again, I was told a couple of the 5 pounds I fronted had been lost in the mail, and anything more I could bring in would be split between me and 2 other people. Then I was handed a brown lunch bag filled with cash, and then quickly back in my car and on the highway. When I got home, I closed the door to my dad's office and started counting. I was very upset. $4,000 for 5 pounds, and I had 3 other people to pay with it. My decision turned out to be easy. I just split it 4 ways and then have 3 unpleasant interactions and explanations. Afterwards, I went to town to make the soundest decision I could with my share, a new set of tires for my dad's SUV that I still needed to borrow. Early the next morning, I was back on the road and made it to the trim house by lunch. It's getting weird out there in the world. I tell you this WikiLeaks stuff, it's not what you hear on the news talk channels. There's this whole secret underlayer happening online. I crashed my dad's computer and my sister's phone while looking into it. I don't know what comes next. I told the room filled with isolated pot trimmers as soon as I walked in. That sounds wild, see? How was the show? Roxy asked. The guys played great. Their producer heard my demo and told me he liked it, so I guess that was worth the trip, I told her. Listen, this place is shutting down in a week. Why don't you change your clothes, sit down, and then tell me all about it as we finish off these bags. We also need to start talking about where we go from here, Roxy instructed. She was burnt out. She'd spent 2 months working in that trim room, and when she told me to drive to the small, quaint coastal town of Mendocino, I was on board. It took a few days to shake off a few other trimmers that had nothing better to do but tag along, but once we were finally alone, all the good feelings came back. I was still consuming a lot of weed, cigarettes, beer, and coffee whenever I could. I found them at a register of a souvenir store as Roxy checked out what they had in the back. White sunglasses with a gold snakeskin print. I had to have them. After paying, I put them on and went to surprise Roxy. "Look at this trippy hippie car," she exclaimed before looking up at me. It was a white VW bug toy car with 2 hippies inside. I tried to act as though I was enthused by it. "Oh, those sunglasses are great. You should get them," Roxy told me after looking up. "I already did. Are you hungry yet? I think our table's about ready." Nice meals, hot coffee, and browsing the local mom-and-pop stores with Christmas right around the corner, all along the gorgeous Pacific Ocean, which we found time to explore. Nothing more to say, just a perfect couple days with the woman I loved. From there, we spent a night at a hot spring and took a treacherous back road drive to civilization to mail Roxy's family some Christmas presents. Afterward, the mood took a turn in the parking lot of the packaging center. "I can't live like this. I don't have a home. I just drive around and live out of my suitcase. It's too much," she cried. "I don't know what to tell you. You can't change your whole life in a day. We're working on it," I countered. I just don't know how to be in a relationship. I can't do it. I don't know how. When you're not around, I get everything done I need to. I'm sick of getting bogged down in all your drama, and it's not your fault. You're a beautiful creature on your own. I just don't know how to keep making it work. I don't know how," she cried out. "But you do know how. You're doing it right now. You're talking about it is an important thing, and we're going to get there. We're too good together, you and me. All of this is worth the headache. I love you too much to not keep trying. You're the best thing in my life. You have to keep trying too," I pleaded. Once Roxy composed herself, we decided the best thing to do was save some money by driving south to John's house to regroup. It must have been a nice vacation home when it was built back in the 60s, but it had fallen into disrepair. John did his best to keep it up. I was instantly drawn in by the backyard's steep, dramatic cliffs. To a visitor, the conditions of the house mattered little against this backdrop. John was happy to oblige us. It was his first time seeing us together as a couple. It was quite a novelty for him. John was going up to Canada in January and needed someone to look after things for a whole month. Roxy jumped at the chance to postpone her developmental life goals, and I was just as happy to have a place and time to try to get back some of those happy summer trailer vibes. But first, the three of us had to go back to Nevada City for Christmas. I'd be negligent to not address the comment I made as John pointed out Napa State Hospital on the drive back to Nevada City. "I hope I don't end up there," I said as we all laughed at what was starting to be an actual concern. Roxy didn't want to be a bother to anyone, so she rented us a motel room. We had a lot we wanted to do, and Roxy had a lot she wanted to spend her new grip of cash on. Shoes, clothes, and iPhone. I tried to stay out of her way. Another thing that needed dealing with was the rest of the marijuana I grew. I'd been getting voicemails about what to do with the other 5 pounds. There was an offer of $500 a pound, but it was a complete disaster for me. I'd get less than $1,000, and I couldn't live and make a record off that. I wanted to give the bikers another try. We were getting about double that if we waited on them to do their thing. The bottom line was everyone involved didn't like the presented options. On Christmas Eve, Roxy cooked my family a big, organic fried chicken dinner. That was a big hit. Afterwards, as I lay on the couch in the living room smoking weed, I asked Roxy about the rest of the evening. "Hey Roxy, you're coming out with us tonight, right?" I asked. "I don't know, I'm not feeling all that social. I bet it will be packed at the bars," she answered. "Definitely, but you should still come out. You'll probably see people you haven't seen in a while," I explained. "Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of," she said under her breath, but still loud enough for me to hear her. "Anyone in particular?" I asked. "You know the score here. I love you to death, but I also have to live with the social aftermath of your little moods. Some people in this town love you. Great, I get it, but there's a larger world out there that isn't privy to the secret genius of Sea Stoltzner. To everyone on the outside, you can come across as a bit of a jerk. Sometimes," Roxy told me. "Well, I appreciate the addition of sometimes. That sure did soften the blow," I said as my mood rose above the strength of the marijuana. My sisters had a large breakfast waiting the next morning. Sandy surprised me with a joint of White Widow, and I got really stoned. I had to hold my hand over my heart to keep my tight t-shirt from touching my chest, so I just stayed out on the deck as everyone ate as the intensity passed. We exchanged some gifts. My dad got me a black Western guitar shirt. It went well with the black leather gloves I bought for myself. My dad also got Roxy a felt hat and a shawl. She loved it, which really helped out our situation because she couldn't find any shoes or clothes she liked when we went shopping. From there, the day progressed to dinner at my grandma's, then back to the motel to decompress and make a new plan. "How about one more day? I need to figure out what to do with the rest of these 5 pounds I've got trimmed up," I told her. $500 a pound? I mean, that's nothing. Nobody will make any money on that," Roxy agreed. "I know. That's what I told them. I think I should just drop off the rest with the bikers. It was those couple of pounds that got lost in the mail that really hurt us last time. Maybe we'll fare better if we try again," I said as I made my decision. Roxy agreed to one more day, and I thought I'd do the best thing for all parties involved and make this tough decision on my own, so I got up early and dropped off the rest of the weed. Over the next week, Roxy and I spent a few days in San Rafael getting new pairs of glasses and some new age books we've been looking for. Then a few days with Roxy's Big Sur Music Festival friends in San Francisco for the new year. My hangover didn't really hit till we crossed the Golden Gate Bridge and started in on the winding hills of Highway 1. The drive seemed like it went on forever, but soon enough we were back at John's and he gave us directions on how to look after things while he was away. "This plant will do fine. You'll probably only need to water it once or twice. The cats don't mind the dry food I feed them. It's nothing fancy. Their big treat is catching a mouse or something. Don't worry, they don't make a mess with it," he told us. "And Cobra, feel free to use my recording setup. It's all through this computer. You know how to use one, right?" he asked. "Well, sort of, I guess," I said, not to embarrass myself. "Do you think you could give me a recap?" John fired up the computer and opened a new file and recorded a track of us talking about how to use the program. Look, it's very simple, very intuitive, very user-friendly, he told me. Yeah, it's similar to other programs I've used. I lied to move us on from the foreign subject. Great, I can't wait to hear what you've been cooking up. Roxy told me you've been busy, he said. Roxy and I were both sad to see John leave. He was a good distraction from our need to respark our relationship. Roxy made her plans clear after I played her the new song I've been working on since summer. And now I go to sleep, ashes will blanket me, and that's the rest you'll see. I softly sang the closing line of my new song. See, I've heard a lot of half-baked musical ideas, and I'm sorry to say this still needs a lot of work. It's kind of all over the place, she told me after leaning back in her chair. I don't know what to say. I think I can play it better if you let me try again. I'm still working a few things out, I explained. Okay, listen, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stay out of your way so you can get your stuff figured out, whatever that needs to be for you. If you want to be a musician, great. If you want to get into woodworking, that's great too. But whatever it is, you need to commit yourself to the higher capability I know you've got in you. That's what I truly want to see out of a partner. Okay, I'll see you for dinner, she said as she got up from her chair and left the room. I wasn't ready to change my occupation over the demo, but Roxy was right. I needed to work it like a job. I needed my Telecaster from back home. I called Sandy and left a voicemail. Hey Sandy, I was thinking you should come out here for a few days. I need my guitar and I'm just about out of weed. I've also got a few vocal ideas for you. Let's try them out. Call me back. Over the next 2 hours, the trip was negotiated to include my dad and Starla, who I'd barely talked to since our fight at the boat party. Roxy wasn't amused by this at first, but once they arrived and everyone started drinking, her mood lightened. Dad, why don't you pick out a record from John's collection? I asked. See, I don't know who these bands are. Don't ask me. He started looking. Hey, Roxy, what was your band called again? Pure Silver. John has it. You haven't heard them, right? I'll help you, I told him. After a few minutes of looking, we put on their first record. Hey, they've got a flute. I know what a flute sounds like. The song just kind of sits there on the edge of almost getting going, doesn't it? My dad reviewed. I guess so, but that's what we were going for, Roxy told him. Yeah, for when you're too drunk to get out of your chair, but you can still tap your feet, he told her. After my family left, there always seemed to be a new distraction. We needed firewood. Roxy wanted to check out a heritage seed bank. We needed to make an hour's drive to the nearest town to fill up 5-gallon jugs of water. We got invited to go rock climbing with the woman who rented us free videos at the gas station. My aunt invited us to her vacation home for dinner. All welcome distractions for Roxy, who had nothing going on for herself. It was just hard for me to get in the zone and start impressing her again, like I did at the beginning. Plus, my constant need for weed didn't help my cause. Even though Roxy would stay out of my way during the day, in the evenings we'd still relax together. She had her new book that we got in San Rafael, The Matrix Energetics. It was a self-help book by a fifth-dimensional faith healer based on the idea of connecting 2 points and observing the change between them. She would read it aloud to me, and we'd discuss. Wow, he got Superman to save that little girl. Isn't that amazing, see? Roxy asked. It's the weirdest thing. Years ago, my mom bought 2 old Superman cartoons on DVD. I think I've seen that episode he's talking about, I told Roxy, completely surprised. What? Maybe this book is more for you than me, she concluded. Cooking brought Roxy a lot of joy, and now that she had cash, we were eating well. She would make elaborate breakfasts. It would often be a fried egg and a nest of ringed onions on a quesadilla with salsa, beans, and rice, sausage on the side, and avocado garnished all over the top. After she'd clean up, I'd make us a juice out of about 10 fruits and vegetables. I'd brought along the Champion juicer my mom bought when she tried to fight our cancer through nutrition. I don't think I cared much about my own health at this moment with Roxy. It was just a way to feel close to my mom again. With all the fuel in my system, I couldn't use hunger as an excuse for anything. But as the weeks went by, I started to pay attention to the obvious signs that things would be changing again soon. So it's just going to be the 2 of you for a while, if you want to stay here, that is. My mom was fine with sharing me for Christmas, but she's been hounding me ever since, wanting to know when I was coming back home, Roxy told me. Are you sure you don't want me to come with? I asked. Frankly, see, it's a part of the country you wouldn't fit in, and you didn't want to work hard at the trim house. I'm in no mood to pay your way on this one. Just stay here with John. You've got a lot to work out. One afternoon, Roxy walked in the living room looking for something and found me lightly strumming my guitar with a joint in my mouth. She had reached the limit in asking me nicely, so she said it again very simply. Your current trajectory is something that I'm not interested in for a partner, and I'm very curious to see what you do with your time while I'm away, she told me and left the room. was distraught, captured by the deep down feeling that I didn't have the extra effort to be anything more than I already was. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, so I staggered down the worn path that led to John's cliff overlooking the waves. I felt dizzy, so I laid in a shallow cutout in the cliff bed. The longer I stayed there, the less I wanted to get up. Was Roxy right? Had I blown my chance with her? Had the novelty worn off? I was who I was and probably unable to change that. Now what? How do I change everything in an instant with the one I truly love at stake? It felt impossible. I had no hope. I knew I was a lost cause. After an hour, no hope came to me. I just shuddered in a ball, thinking I should cut off my sideburns and get some kind of normal job. But at my core, I didn't like that. In the next hour, I saw an image of a golden doorway over the Pacific Ocean. But that was nothing of a plan or approach for dealing with this enormous problem. But my body started to loosen as I accepted the winter's cold. I kept thinking. By my third hour, I really had to pee, so I got up and walked back to the house with the foundation of the best plan I'd have to go with. Roxy was seated when I walked in, and I went over and kissed her. You're right. I've not been carrying my weight and in the process dragging you down. I want to do better. I just haven't been able to see how, I lovingly told Roxy. Thank you, C, she said softly. I really don't want to lose this. You're capable of so much. I know it, she said. Do you remember that news story we heard on the radio about apps? I asked. Kind of like the ones on your phone, Roxy inquired. Exactly. They were saying in the next 10 years, everything will be an app, I reminded her. Let me guess, you're telling me this because you want to make an app, she said. For what? The album. It's going to be an app. I'll make a bunch of art to go along with it. We'll do some videos too. It'll be a whole new type of interactive record. I think we'll be the first into the market and can use it as a template for others. There might really be some cash in this, I explained. Okay, yeah, I kind of get it, I think. But how does it work? Roxy asked. I don't know yet, but I think it's something I can do, like the Choose Your Adventure CD. I didn't know how that was going to work, but I figured it out as I went, I told her. Well, if anybody can, it's you. But let me first ask, how are you going to pull this off when you can't even get John's computer to turn on? Roxy asked with a chuckle in her throat. I think I know the right people to talk to, I said with confidence. With a good solid answer of what I was going to do with my life, the next day returned us to a more cohabitated bliss. I even figured out the general blueprint for the app. It would be based on an outdoor survival book I'd been carrying around. We'd write songs and make videos about the topics of the chapters. Making fire, building shelter, filtering water, stuff like that. But it would all have a do-it-yourself art vibe weaved through. I figured if WikiLeaks was so close to releasing the biggest secret of all time, maybe there was a chance we need to hide out somewhere. From what? I didn't know. I wanted to make the topic of survivalism fun and colorful. Roxy was supportive. Things took a turn the day before she left. John didn't have a washing machine and our laundry had piled up. We had to drive 2 towns over to the nearest laundromat, which was very busy. While Roxy got her clothes ready, she noticed that she'd forgotten her nice natural detergent. She was not happy, and I knew enough to stay out of her way for a bit. There was a grand lookout with an inviting bench. I lost track of time as I smoked a couple cigarettes waiting for the situation to cool down. On my walk back, I saw a weird little car pod thing. It reminded me of the UFO pod I'd seen. Funny, I hadn't thought about it since. I saw Roxy was back in the car, so I got in too. By now her clothes were in the dryer. Was it a good smoke? It must have been if you've been gone this long, Roxy inferred. Yeah, it was fine. There was a nice view I liked, I answered. Oh, it must have been a great view then. The only view I've had here is of my underpants spinning round and round. But it's okay. I didn't need your help. It would have been nice to not have to lug these things in myself, but I didn't really need your help. I've got it. It's fine, she told me. I'm sorry, I said. For what? Doing whatever you want? That surprises me. I don't know why you'd pick now to be sorry for that, Roxy exploded. Look, I'm not wanting to get into any of this, I answered her in the hope of putting it to an end. Well, that would have been something great to think about when you should have been lugging in my laundry. I quickly grabbed the door handle and got back out, walking a few feet away, then turning back and turning back again. After a moment of standing in the parking lot with no real thought of what I was doing, I turned around one more time, but instead got in the back seat. You're back. You must have come up with something really creative to say out there. I'm kind of excited to hear it. All right, C, lay it on me, Roxy goaded. I don't really have anything. I just don't want to fight with you right now, I said with my head in my hands. Fine, she relented. After a minute, Roxy started rummaging through her purse. I could hear her pausing on random things until she found a bag of Peruvian Holywood she carried around. She lit a piece, then waved it around the car and then in my face a few times. "What, you don't like it?" she asked. "Not really, not in my face, I don't," I told her. "I thought you didn't want to fight. Maybe the sacred wood smoke will inspire a real apology out of you," Roxy continued to goad. "I don't think it works. You're still being a bitch," I told her gently after losing my inner battle not to. Roxy had nothing to say in response, and I saw no need to push her any further. I just got up and climbed into the back of the SUV to give us more space. Once her clothes were done and we were halfway home, we started talking again. As for the fight, I would say we had a quiet understanding that if Roxy didn't leave me after her trip, we'd finish it another time. Later that evening, Roxy read me more from her Matrix Energetics book. The book was intriguing enough, but I loved to hear her talk more when she was lighthearted, with a chuckle in her throat. Well, that ends that chapter. We've got a few more to go when I get back. It says here the next one is on time travel. I woke up first and looked over at Roxy's peaceful face still locked in slumber. I checked the clock on the nightstand. I wasn't sure when we needed to be on the road, but it was late enough in the morning for me in my oblivion to know we were going to be late. "Roxy, are you awake?" I asked in a low tone. "Hey," I lightly shook her. "What time are we supposed to be there?" I asked. 1 o'clock, she said with no movement other than her lips. "Girl, we gotta get going. It's 10:30 right now," I told her. "What? Didn't my alarm go off?" she yelled at me. "If it did, I didn't hear it," I said. What happened next to an outsider must have looked like the most poorly planned fire drill of all time. Roxy ran around from room to room, grabbing things, then setting them down haphazardly somewhere, then stopping and backtracking to where she just put something else. "Should I make a quick pot of coffee?" I asked her as she stormed into the living room. "No, we don't have time. We're going to be late," she harshly answered. "It'll be fine. We're just meeting them at the beach. I think it'll be fine," I told her. "Are you packed? I don't have time to wait for you," Roxy barked. "Yeah, my bag's in the car. Don't worry about me." The coffee would have been more than ready by now, and I would have been sipping on a cup as I smoked in the driveway waiting for her. "So I guess I have to drive?" she asked as she carried out her last bag. "You know the way," I said. "It's Highway 1. Everyone knows the way. It follows the coastline," she told me as if I were a complete idiot. "I can drive," I said. "I thought you don't like to drive stoned," Roxy prodded. "I'm not that stoned," I told her. No, I'll drive. Get in," Roxy ordered. The couple we stayed with in San Francisco for the New Year was putting us up for the night, but they were staying at a hotel with another couple in the very small coastal town of Bolinas. Roxy was excited to be seeing her friends for a change, and we'd be getting a key to their apartment, so this was a stop that had to happen. Highway 1 is beautiful, but can be pretty slow going when you're trying to get somewhere in a hurry. We stopped off for a couple quick cups of coffee, which settled us down some as we continued with the drive. Once we pulled into Bolinas, Roxy wanted to stop at a health food store for snacks to take to the beach. "We have a big problem," I yelled as Roxy came out of the store and into the parking lot. "What?" she asked with a bag of goods in her hand. "I was messing with a latch on the back door, and now the door won't shut," I said in extreme frustration. "Why are you doing that? Did you try to put it back?" she asked me as she tried to understand what I was saying. "Yeah, I tried. It's broken. I don't know why I did it. It just kind of happened," I tried to explain. "It just kind of happened? What do you mean it just kind of happened? So now I've got to worry about you breaking the car just for fun?" she exploded. "It's not like that," I said. "No, see, it's exactly like that." "Now what do we do? Can we deal with it later? We're late to meet them," she said harshly. "No, the door won't shut at all. It just flops open. I think we need to find a mechanic," I told her from the former experience I had in creating this problem as a child. We started driving around the small town as I held the door shut from the inside. Roxy rolled down the window and asked a guy walking down the street. Turns out he was a mechanic, and after getting the right tool was able to pop it back in place for beer money. We were blessed to find someone so easily, but all in all, it set us back another hour. Now we were really late. Once we got to the beach and parked, we gathered our things and walked to where the beach signs directed us to go. Her friends were nowhere in sight. Did we miss them? Now we had to walk up and down both sides of the beach looking. This definitely didn't put me in the mood to socialize when we found them after another 20 minutes. Later, when we were driving to the apartment in San Francisco, Roxy tried to pick back up the fight from the laundromat the day before. I guess getting up in the middle of dinner to go wait out in the car was frowned upon in Bolinas, but I would concede that she had good reason to wish I made a better effort with her friends. I wasn't mean, just indifferent. All I could say in my defense was I was waiting for things to manifest, but I wasn't sure what that meant. John's plane from Canada had come in a few hours earlier, and he was waiting for us to pick him up. He was all amped up from his trip, so we stopped to buy a few drinks to try to calm everyone's nerves before Roxy's early morning departure. As I smoked out on the porch, I could hear Roxy and John talking about me. "Now, John, I need you to be a bit gentle with C. I don't know what's going on in that head, but he seems to be unstable, and I'm trying my best. But after what I've been through, I can't watch another artist lose it. I sure know how to pick 'em, don't I?" Roxy confided. "I'll be on it. We'll try to get a routine going. That works for me when I get out of it," John said to ease her concerns. "He might need more than that. I can't say when, but there's been a change," Roxy told him. "I've known Cobra for a while now. He can get like this, but he always bounces back," John told her. The next morning, as John unloaded Roxy's bags on the curb of the airport departure lane, I got a kiss and a hug and the elusive feeling that this would be the last time for both. But I ignored it and decided to finally stake my claim at my art, music, and Roxy as a partner for the rest of my life. By the time she gets back, it'll all be underway, I thought as I looked in the rearview mirror, seeing her walk through the automatic double airport doors. "Okay, John, now what?" I asked as I followed the signs back towards San Francisco. John cracked the window and lit a rolled cigarette. "I don't know, but I know a good place to stop for coffee."